So let's get right into it. OpenAI just dropped GPT-5.2, and, on paper, this thing should have been a slam dunk. I mean, by every single metric, it's a huge leap forward. And yet, the reaction from people who actually use this stuff every day, it wasn't just cheers. It was this weird mix of skepticism, annoyance, and even some real pushback. So today, we're going to unpack that. The story of a ridiculously powerful AI and why so many people met it with a shrug.
To really get this whole paradox, you have to start right here with this one chart. This is the ARC AGI-2 benchmark, and it's not testing memorization. It's designed to test something very human. Can you solve brand new abstract problems you've never seen before? The last model, 5.1, was hovering under 18%. GPT-5.2, it jumps to almost 53%. That's not just a little better. That's a nearly threefold jump in thinking ability in one go. Just wow.
But here's where it gets interesting. Instead of everyone's minds being blown, the feeds were full of comments just like this one. This deep sense of, yeah, I've seen the charts before. A feeling that the numbers on the screen just might not show up when you're actually trying to get work done. The hype was met with a huge collective, prove it.
And that right there is the big mystery we're digging into. How did one of the most powerful AI models ever built get this lukewarm, even distrustful reception? Why did this incredible jump in raw intelligence feel to so many people like a step sideways, or for some, maybe even a step back?
To figure this out, we have to do our due diligence. So first, let's make the case for GPT 5.2. We need to really establish beyond any doubt that on paper, this model is an absolute monster. And trust me, the evidence is pretty overwhelming.
Let's start with the big headline. This is a benchmark called GDP-Val, and it's all about real-world office work. Making spreadsheets, writing reports, stuff like that. The old model was beating or tying human professionals about 39% of the time. Pretty good. But GPT 5.2? It's now doing it 71% of the time. So, for the first time ever, we have an AI that, for most of these common tasks, is just flat out better than a human expert. And it's not a one-trick pony. The success is everywhere. It's smashing records in coding and software engineering. It got a perfect score on math problems that are meant for math Olympiads. It's acing graduate-level science questions, and it has an almost photographic memory across huge documents. By the raw numbers, it's an undisputed champion. Okay, but if all those benchmarks feel a little abstract, check this out. Somebody gave the model a single prompt, just one. They asked for a 3D city destruction game. Less than an hour later, it spits out a zip file with a complete playable game. We're talking destructible buildings, different weapons, a score, sound, the whole thing. This is way beyond just answering questions. This is like handing a whole mini project to a developer and getting it back finished.
All right, so the model is clearly ridiculously powerful. Case closed, right? Well, not so fast. Now let's flip the coin and look at the other side of this, because this is where we start to find the real reasons for all the skepticism. It turns out the numbers really don't tell the whole story.
The first big problem is something you could call benchmark fatigue. We've been seeing these charts for years now, right? Every new model is state-of-the-art. And a lot of users have learned the hard way that a pretty graph going up and to the right doesn't always mean the model feels smarter or is less annoying to use in your actual day-to-day. The numbers have just started to lose their impact.
And that fatigue is getting worse because people are getting wise to concepts like test time compute. Simply put, a benchmark score can depend a lot on how much money and processing power you throw at a single problem. It's like giving one student unlimited time to take a test. So when users see phrases like maximum reasoning effort, their eyes glaze over. They're thinking, okay, is that the performance I get, or is that the special expensive version you only use for the test?
Now look, this doesn't mean there aren't absolutely insane efficiency gains. A year ago, getting an 88% on this other benchmark cost around $4,500 per question. Today, GPT 5.2 gets a better score for about $11. That is a 390 times cost reduction. It's incredible. But it also just reinforces the main point. Performance isn't a fixed number. It's a dial that can be turned up or down, which makes comparing models really tricky.
And that same kind of nuance applies to that beats human experts claim. GDP-Val is a great test, but it's measuring very clearly defined digital tasks. It doesn't capture all the messy, unspoken knowledge you need in a real job. And more importantly, it doesn't account for the huge cost of one really bad mistake. Like if the model just deletes your entire project folder by accident.
So that brings us from all the technical stuff to the real human core of this whole backlash. This isn't just about numbers and charts anymore. It's about trust. or more accurately, a lack of it.
See, the problem is, a lot of users have been burned before. Many of them remember when GPT-5 first came out. Everyone was excited, it worked great. But then, over the next few months, people felt like it was getting worse. They felt it was being nerfed, refusing to do things it did before. So when 5.2 came along, they came in with their guard up, basically assuming that this new, awesome version was probably just temporary.
And what's really important to get here is that this criticism isn't coming from people who don't understand the tech. It's coming from the power users, the people who've been living with these models day in and day out. Their expectations have totally evolved. The things they care about when judging an AI have fundamentally changed.
And this really gets to the heart of it. There's a big mismatch here. OpenAI very clearly built GPT-5.2 to be a junior analyst. It's awesome at professional, corporate tasks that make companies money. But a huge chunk of its most vocal users, they don't want an analyst. They want a creative partner. They care about how it feels to talk to. And the feedback on 5.2 was often that it felt colder, more robotic. Better at the job maybe, but just less fun to work with.
And then, the cherry on top of all this is the ongoing frustration with the safety filters. It doesn't matter how much of a genius a model is. If it's constantly stopping you, giving you a lecture, or refusing to do something simple and harmless, it just doesn't feel that smart. For a lot of people, that frustrating experience completely cancels out the gains in raw intelligence.
So, after all that, what's the verdict? Where does this leave us? Let's try to pull all these threads together and figure out what this strange, complicated backlash really means.
Okay, here it is. The backlash against GPT 5.2 is not because it's a bad model. Far from it. Its technical success is exactly what makes this whole situation so fascinating. The real takeaway here is that the goalposts have moved. For a user base that's getting more and more sophisticated, raw intelligence just isn't the only thing that matters anymore. It's not enough.
Instead, people are starting to judge these AIs on a whole new set of criteria, things that are a lot more subjective. How does it feel to use? Is it predictable? Is it going to be the same model next week as it is today? Do I feel like I'm in charge? And the big one, can I actually trust this thing? What we might be seeing here is a fork in the road for where AI goes next. One path leads to these super efficient enterprise systems, totally optimized for productivity. And that is clearly the path GPT 5.2 is on. But there's another path, leading toward a more human-friendly kind of AI, one that's built for collaboration, for stability, for trust. And this whole backlash shows that there are a lot of people really hoping the industry takes that second path.
Let's be clear. These models are going to keep getting smarter. That intelligence curve is just going to keep going up. The real question, the one this whole episode brings up, is something else entirely. As raw capability shoots to the moon, can the industry close the ever-widening gap between what these models can do and how comfortable we feel using them? Because if that trust gap keeps growing, this kind of backlash won't be a one-time thing. It'll just be the new normal.